Aries, let me ask you something. And don't answer out loud. Just feel it. Why does it seem like your life never moved slowly, yet your rewards always arrived late? You acted first. You carried the weight. You pushed forward when others hesitated. And still, something kept holding you back. If you're an Aries listening right now, this message didn't reach you by chance. There are moments when the universe stops whispering and starts activating. Ancient prophecies weren't written for everyone. Some were sealed for souls who move before the world is ready, for the fire starters, for the ones who go first. And if you felt a strange urgency lately, a quiet pressure to move, to decide, to rise, trust that. Stay with me, because what's unfolding now is not a coincidence, and the next part changes everything. All right? Stay with me. And just imagine I'm speaking only to you, not a crowd, not the world, just you, Aries. Because this didn't arrive by accident. You didn't randomly land here. You didn't click this at the wrong time, and you're not listening early or late. You're listening exactly when something inside you is ready to hear it. I know you've always trusted action more than signs. You move, you decide, you don't wait for permission. That's who you are. But even the boldest fire notices when the air around it starts to change. And lately, the air has felt different, hasn't it? Quieter, heavier, almost like the moment right before a storm breaks. That strange stillness where your body feels alert, but your mind doesn't know why yet. That's not anxiety. That's recognition. Across centuries, Nostradamus wrote about many things the world remembers. Wars, empires, collapse. But there were also messages he never meant for the masses. Messages sealed for certain souls. Souls who move first. Souls who carry ignition in their chest. You. He believed some people are born as triggers, not followers of time, but activators of it. When they shift, reality responds. And if you're an Aries, you know this feeling well. The sense that your life has always been one step ahead of explanation. That you felt called to move before proof appeared. That you were pushed forward while still doubting yourself. You've probably asked quietly why your path never felt gentle. Why nothing was handed to you softly. Why every breakthrough seemed to demand pressure first. But what if it wasn't resistance? What if it was alignment being delayed until you were strong enough to carry what comes next? Because timing isn't about readiness of opportunity, it's about readiness of the soul, and something has shifted there, deep inside you. You might not have words for it yet, just a low hum, a pulse, a feeling that staying where you are is no longer an option. Even rest feels temporary now. That's how activation begins, not with fireworks, but with an inner knowing that refuses to quiet down. This isn't about predicting your future. It's about reminding you who you are before it unfolds. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to initiate, to open doors others walk through later, to move first, even when the path isn't visible yet. And yes, that role comes with weight, with loneliness at times, with moments where you wonder if anyone truly sees how much you've carried. I see it. And if you're listening, a part of you does too. So take a breath right now. Let your shoulders drop. Let the urgency soften just enough to listen. Because what I'm about to share next isn't about pressure, it's about relief. About understanding why the road behind you looked the way it did, and why the ground beneath your feet is starting to feel warmer now. We're not rushing forward yet. We're simply stepping closer to the truth. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that glows. And as we move deeper into this story, you may begin to see your past differently. Not as delays, not as detours, but as preparation. Stay with me, because the next layer reveals why nothing you endured was wasted, and why this moment, right now, is where it all quietly begins to make sense. All right, stay close with me here. And let me speak to you the way I would to a friend sitting across the table. Low light, no rush, just honesty. Because if I look at your life, Aries, I don't see delay. I see compression. For a long time now, it may have felt like you were living with one foot on the gas and one hand on the brake. You moved first. You decided early. You stepped forward when others were still thinking. And somehow, you watched them pass you by later. That can do something to the heart. It can make you question your instincts, make you wonder if being bold was a mistake, if acting early cost you something you were supposed to have by now. But listen to me. Really listen. What if those years were not taking from you but concentrating you? Nostradamus spoke of cycles not as punishment, but as design. He believed there are souls who carry raw force. Too much power to be released all at once. So life applies pressure instead. 20 years is a long time to feel restrained. Long enough to harden your patience. Long enough to deepen your self-control. Long enough to teach you restraint without extinguishing your fire. And that matters more than you know. Because an untrained warrior burns out. But a forged one endures. Think back for a moment. Not to one memory, but to a pattern. How often you were placed at the front. How often responsibility found you without invitation. How often you carried consequences that were not fully yours. You learned discipline through friction. You learned timing through frustration. You learned strength by having to stand when no one clapped. That was not random. This is the part people never tell Aries. Going first does not mean arriving first. It means preparing the way. It means absorbing impact so others do not have to. And there were moments, I know, when you felt held back, like a gate that refused to open no matter how hard you pushed. Not because you lacked courage, but because what you carry was still being shaped. Steel does not complain while it is heated. It waits. You were not denied momentum. You were given control over it. Every pause refined your aim. Every setback sharpened your instinct. Every quiet season taught you when not to strike. That is not weakness. That is mastery being installed. And here is the part I want you to feel, not just understand. Nothing you lived through was wasted motion. Not the years you questioned yourself. Not the effort that seemed to disappear into silence. Not the patience you learned the hard way. You were not standing still. You were being loaded. And when force is compressed long enough, it does not fade. It multiplies. That is why lately your energy feels different, not restless. Ready, not angry. Focused. You are no longer pushing blindly. You are sensing when to move. That is how you know this phase is closing. Not because someone told you, but because your body knows. So let yourself breathe into that realization. The years behind you were not a detour. They were the forge. And as we keep moving forward together, you may begin to see that what felt like being held back was actually life teaching you how to release power without losing yourself in the process. Stay here with me. Because the next part of this story is where all that pressure begins to shift into motion. And you know what's strange? Aries. Once you start seeing those years as a forge, you also start noticing something else, something that changes the story entirely, because it was not only the pressure, it was the pattern you were asked to do more, even when you were already running on empty. You were the one people leaned on, the one who stayed steady, when others collapsed, the one who carried responsibility like it was normal, even when it was never supposed to be yours. And I know you rarely complain about it. You just handle it. You take the hit. You keep moving. But there were nights when you sat alone with that weight, and you wondered why life kept choosing you, why the hardest lessons seemed to find your door first, why your heart had to stay brave while your soul was tired. Let me tell you something with gentleness and with truth. Some souls are built for comfort. Others are built for impact, and Aries, you were built for impact. Nostradamus described a hidden law beneath the chaos, a kind of cosmic accounting where nothing real is ever lost. It is stored not in a bank, not in a ledger, but in the unseen layers of your life. Every time you were rejected and still showed up the next morning, something was added. Every time you lost something and refused to let bitterness take you, something was added. Every time you failed in public and healed in private, something was added. This is what he meant by cosmic accumulation. The universe collects evidence of who you are not to punish you, but to prepare what you can hold. Because if blessings arrive before your foundation is ready, they do not stay, they scatter, they evaporate. So life did something different with you. It strengthened your grip, it widened your capacity. It built the kind of inner structure that can receive without collapsing, that can rise without becoming cruel, that can win without forgetting what pain feels like. And that last part matters because, Aries, the world doesn't need more power without heart. It needs leaders who remember. It needs success that still has compassion inside it. It needs people who can build something real and not lose themselves while doing it. You were trained for that. Even your losses, even the things you still don't fully understand, they were not empty moments. They were energy being compressed, like a storm, gathering over the ocean like heat, building under the earth. Quiet, patient, unstoppable. That is why what you call failure often turns into wisdom in your hands. That is why what broke other people made you clearer, stronger, more awake. You were not losing time. You were storing power. And I want you to feel this part too, because it is healing to finally name it. You did not suffer because you were forgotten. You suffered because you were being shaped into someone who could hold more and still remain human. So if you have been telling yourself, maybe I am behind, maybe I missed it, maybe I am too late, no. You are not late, you are loaded. And now the question becomes different. It is no longer why was it hard. It is what was all that pressure meant to activate. Stay with me. Let your mind get quiet for a moment, because the next turn of this story is where the stored energy begins to move. And you will start to recognize the moment when waiting ends without anyone needing to announce it. And here is where the energy changes. Aries. Not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Because there is a moment in every long cycle when pressure stops building and starts moving. You do not hear a bell. You do not see a sign in the sky. You feel it in your body first, that quiet internal shift where effort no longer feels like struggle, but like direction. This is what Nostradamus meant when he spoke of activation. Not a date circled on a calendar, not an announcement made to the world, but a threshold. A point where stored force begins to release itself naturally. You may have noticed it already. Small things starting to line up without effort. Conversations that carry weight. Ideas arriving fully formed. Decisions feeling clear instead of rushed. That is not luck. That is movement. For a long time, your fire was held steady on purpose. Contained. Refined. And now it is being allowed to circulate again. This is important to understand, because Aries is used to pushing, charging, breaking through resistance. But this phase is different. You are not breaking the door down. The door is opening because it recognizes you. The prophecy was never about a single day. It was about readiness meeting momentum. The moment when your inner structure could finally support what wants to arrive. That is why it feels subtle and powerful at the same time. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer preparing. You are already in motion. And those who are not ready will not understand what is happening around you. They may say you are changing. They may feel left behind. They may not be able to follow your pace anymore. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. When a cycle activates, it does not ask everyone for permission. It simply moves forward with those who can carry it. And you can feel that truth settling in now. Not as pressure, but as clarity. There is less doubt in your chest, less second-guessing, more calm confidence, the kind that does not need to prove itself. This is what it feels like when your energy is no longer compressed. When it begins to flow through the channels it was built for. You may still feel intensity, but it is cleaner now, focused, directional, like an engine that has finally warmed up after years of cold starts. This is why things are happening faster, why answers arrive without force, why movement feels inevitable instead of exhausting. The prophecy is not coming. It is already live, and that changes how you walk through the world. You no longer chase outcomes. You position yourself. You listen more closely to timing. You trust when to move and when to let things come to you. That is mastery, not urgency. Take a moment here. Let that realization land. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Your life is no longer in rehearsal. It is in execution. And as we continue forward together, you will begin to notice the early signals more clearly. The subtle confirmations, the quiet yeses, the moments that tell you this current is real and it is carrying you somewhere specific. Stay with me, because the next layer of this journey is about learning how to recognize those signs before they become obvious to everyone else. And now that the current has started to move, Aries, there is something gentle I want you to notice. Not outside of you, inside. Because when a cycle truly activates, it does not arrive with noise. It arrives with recognition. You may have felt it already. That quiet sense that things are finding you instead of the other way around. Moments that appear suddenly, but feel strangely familiar, as if they were waiting for you to look up. An idea lands in your mind without effort. A conversation shifts direction at just the right second. A message comes through that changes your entire afternoon. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just precise. This is how movement announces itself to Aries, not by asking for permission, but by inviting you forward. What feels different now is not speed, it is clarity. You are not rushing anymore. You are responding. And that restless energy in your chest, the one that makes it hard to sit still lately, that is not impatience. That is alignment, tightening its grip. When the path is unclear, Aries pushes. When the path is open, Aries senses. You may notice your intuition speaking louder than usual, not as emotion, as certainty, short signals, clean instincts, a knowing that does not need explanation. You feel pulled to act, but not impulsively, deliberately. That is an important distinction, because chasing feels frantic, being called feels calm. And lately, you are being called. Opportunities are not requiring effort to locate. They appear in ordinary places, a routine moment, a casual exchange, a passing thought that suddenly carries weight. And instead of doubt, you feel readiness. This is what happens when your energy stops leaking into resistance and starts circulating in flow. Even your body knows it. Your sleep patterns shift. Your focus sharpens. Your tolerance for stagnation drops. You can no longer stay where you have outgrown yourself. And that is not pressure. That is honesty. The universe doesn't whisper urgency without purpose. It signals momentum. So if you feel like waiting no longer makes sense, trust that feeling. Waiting is for preparation. You have already done that. What you are sensing now is the moment when effort transforms into placement. When you no longer push doors open, you recognize which ones are already unlocked. And there is relief in that. A deep one. Because for the first time in a long while, you are not guessing. You are choosing. That choice feels quieter than you expected. More grounded, less dramatic. That is how you know it is real. And as these signs continue to surface, you may begin to feel something else alongside excitement. Responsibility. Not the heavy kind you carried before, the conscious kind. The awareness that when things start working, you must be ready to hold them differently, with care, with intention, with space. So let yourself slow down just enough to notice. The timing, the alignment, the way effort dissolves into direction. Because these signals are not just telling you that movement has begun. They are gently preparing you for what comes next. And as we continue, you may find yourself wondering what needs to be cleared so this momentum can stay clean, strong, and steady. That question is already forming for a reason. And before this momentum carries you any farther, Aries, there is a quiet pause the universe asks of you. Not to slow you down, but to clear your footing. Because every warrior knows this truth. You do not run into a new battle wearing the weight of the old one. For a long time, you survived by carrying things. Emotions you never had time to process. Connections that once meant safety, but slowly became gravity. Beliefs that taught you strength through sacrifice, even when sacrifice began to cost you more than it gave. You did what you had to do, and that deserves respect. But survival is not the same as readiness. Right now, the field around you is changing, and the only thing that can slow this next phase is what you are still holding on to out of habit. This is not about cutting people out harshly. It is about honesty. The kind that happens late at night when you finally admit what drains you and what restores you. Some emotional debts were never meant to be paid forever. Some roles you stepped into were temporary, even if no one told you that at the time. And some promises you made were forged in a version of you that no longer exists. That does not make you disloyal. It makes you alive. Clearing your inner battlefield does not require force. It requires permission. Permission to release guilt. Permission to step out of cycles that only function when you stay small. Permission to believe that worthiness does not come from exhaustion. You may notice this process showing up in very ordinary ways. A sudden urge to clean a room, to reorganize a desk, to simplify your calendar, to look at your finances with clear eyes instead of avoidance or fear. These are not random impulses. They are signals from your nervous system preparing for speed. When your external world becomes lighter, your inner world follows. When your schedule breathes, your intuition sharpens. When your space clears, your energy stops leaking. This is how you make room for momentum without burning yourself out again. And here is something important, Aries. This is not about becoming colder or harder or less caring. It is about becoming precise. The fire inside you is meant to move forward, not backward, to initiate, not to carry what has already ended. A warrior cannot charge forward while dragging the past behind, not because the past is shameful, but because it has already taught you everything it was meant to teach. So if you feel a quiet resolve settling in now, that is clarity arriving. If certain relationships feel complete, that is wisdom speaking. If old beliefs start to loosen their grip, that is growth making space. There is no rush in this moment, only intention. Let yourself choose what comes with you and what stays where it belongs. Let yourself travel lighter, not because you are leaving something behind, but because you are stepping into something that requires freedom. As this clearing continues, you may begin to sense a different question forming. Not what do I need to fix, but what am I meant to build with what is coming? That question does not arrive by accident. It appears when the ground is finally ready for something meaningful to stand on. Stay with me, because once the battlefield is clear, the purpose of what is moving toward you becomes impossible to ignore. And once the ground inside you has been cleared, Aries, something deeper begins to reveal itself. Not as excitement, as meaning. Because wealth, real wealth, does not arrive without asking a question first, not out loud, but quietly in the chest. What will you do with this? You see, the universe never moves resources toward a soul without intention. Money is not neutral energy. It amplifies whatever it touches. And that is why it did not come to you earlier, before you learned restraint, before you learned compassion, before you learned what it feels like to stand empty-handed and still keep your heart open. Aries was never designed to collect abundance and disappear. You were built to ignite motion, to open paths, to move first so others can follow more safely behind. That is why your life has always felt directional. Even your struggles pointed somewhere. Even your losses carried lessons meant to be used later. You were not being hardened for comfort. You were being shaped for leadership. Nostradamus understood this part clearly. He wrote that when resources move toward a pioneer soul, they do not arrive as reward alone. They arrive as fuel. Fuel to build something that did not exist before. Fuel to start what others only talk about. Fuel to create momentum where stagnation once lived. That is why the money coming toward you now will not feel like excess. It will feel like responsibility. Not heavy. Purposeful. You may already sense it. That desire to do something meaningful with what you earn. To invest instead of consume. To create instead of escape. To build something that outlives a moment of pleasure. This is not because you are denying yourself joy. It is because joy for you has always come from movement, from progress, from seeing something grow because you dared to start it. Money follows momentum, and momentum follows purpose. When your actions align with something larger than survival, resources respond naturally. They circulate, they expand, they return multiplied. This is why you are not meant to hoard, and not meant to rush either. You are meant to direct. Think about the times people looked to you for courage, for initiative, for a push forward. You may not have noticed how often it happened, but it shaped you. Leadership does not always wear a title. Sometimes it wears scars, and empathy, and a quiet understanding of struggle. That understanding is what will keep you grounded as your influence grows. It will remind you why you build, why you start, why you keep going even when it would be easier to stop. Wealth in your hands is meant to circulate outward, into ideas, into systems, into opportunities that lift others as you rise. Not because you owe the world something, but because this is how your energy stays clean, aligned, sustainable. And when money is guided by purpose, it does not drain you. It feeds you. You will notice this shift as clarity. Less desire to prove, more desire to create. Less hunger for validation, more focus on impact. That is how you know you are using it correctly. So as this chapter continues to open, let yourself ask a different kind of question. Not how much can I get, but what am I meant to move forward now that I can? That answer does not arrive all at once. It unfolds as you do. Stay with me, because as we approach the final stretch of this story, there is one last choice waiting for you. Not about money, but about whether you are ready to step fully into the role your life has been preparing you for. And now we arrive here, Aries, not at an ending, but at a quiet edge. This is the moment stories rarely talk about. The space where nothing is forcing you anymore. No pressure, no test, just a choice. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle widening inside your chest, like standing at the edge of open land just before dawn. The sky not dark anymore, not fully light either, but charged. This cycle does not rush. It does not chase you. It simply opens. And here is the truth that matters most. This opening is not for everyone, not because others are unworthy, but because not everyone is willing to move when the moment asks. Some people wait for certainty. Some wait for permission. Some wait until the risk disappears. But Aries, you were never built that way. You were built to recognize the moment before it explains itself. To feel when the ground is ready, even if the map is incomplete. To step forward with trust in your own fire. This is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally standing where you have always belonged. You have spent years learning patience, years learning restraint, years learning how to hold power without letting it consume you. That work is done now. What remains is not effort. It is embodiment. To move forward does not mean rushing ahead blindly. It means showing up fully, with clarity, with presence, with the courage to be seen. And yes, stepping forward changes things, not just for you, for the people watching quietly, the ones who draw strength from how you move through life. Even when you never intended to lead. Leadership does not always speak loudly. Sometimes it stands still long enough for others to realize what is possible. If you choose to step aside, life will continue. Someone else will take the opening. The cycle will move on. There is no punishment in that, only distance from what could have been. But if you step forward, you step into alignment with everything you have lived through. Every delay, every lesson, every quiet rebuilding of your spirit. And it will feel strangely calm. Not explosive, not dramatic, just right. Because true readiness does not shout, it settles. So take a breath here. Let your shoulders soften. Let the noise fall away. This choice does not require urgency. It requires honesty. Ask yourself gently, not from fear, from truth. Am I ready to trust the version of myself that has been prepared for this moment? Am I ready to move without proving? To lead without forcing, to act without waiting for validation. There is no wrong answer, only awareness. But know this, the instinct stirring in you right now is not random. It is ancient. It is familiar. It is the same instinct that has guided you every time your life quietly asked you to rise. This is not pressure. This is recognition. And whatever you choose next, let it come from that place, the place where your fire feels steady, clear, alive. Because when you move from there, Aries, you are not taking someone else's place. You are finally taking your own. And before you go anywhere, pause with me for just a moment. Because if you are still here, still listening, still breathing with this message, then something inside you already knows this was not just a story. It was a mirror, a reminder of the fire you never lost. Even when life tried to bury it under responsibility, delay, and silence. A quiet confirmation that what you felt all along was never imagination. It was preparation. Aries, you were never meant to wait forever. You were meant to recognize the moment and rise when it arrived. And if tonight, or this morning, or wherever you are right now, you feel a calm strength settling into your chest, that is not coincidence. That is alignment. This channel exists for souls like yours, not to predict your life, but to remind you of who you are when the noise fades, when doubt loosens its grip, when courage feels natural again. So if this message spoke to you, leave a comment below. Not for me. For the other Aries who may be listening in silence, wondering if they are alone in this shift. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Because this is not the end of the message, it is only the beginning of this chapter. The journey continues. The next message is already forming. And what comes next goes even deeper into purpose, direction, and the power you are stepping into now. Most of all, Aries, trust yourself. You have carried enough doubt for a lifetime. You have earned your clarity. You have earned your momentum. Wherever you are tonight, know this. You are seen. You are supported. And the fire that started this journey is still burning steady within you. Stay close, because the next step is closer than you think.